Hello, young musicians of the Greater Boulder Youth Orchestras. I made a video for you, which I hope will serve as reminders of what we discussed during our How to Practice Well session. Practicing scales every day is very important because playing a scale correctly serves as a very basis of our instrumental playing and ability. How then can we practice the scales correctly? Why do we practice scales? What are things to be worked on during our scale practice? When we practice the scales, we want to be making sure that we play it with good tone, with good posture, and with good intonation. The practice of the scale is to achieve these goals. We want everything to be absolutely perfect. In fact, it can't be any more perfect anywhere else. One of the many ways in which we can begin to work with our scale is with a drone. A drone is a note from a harmony or an accompaniment which is continuously sounded throughout. This means that in a scale, we can use the tonic, which is the first note of that scale, as a drone. For example, for a D major scale, the drone would be a D. Normally, in a 2-octave scale, I use the drone in the middle register of the scale. If you have a C major scale, then you would use the drone C. E minor scale, the E, of course. As we practice our scales, we want to start by making sure that our octaves and the unisons, followed by the fifth, are in good intonation with the drone. Let's now transfer this drone practice into your repertoire. We're going to be discussing the Brook Green Suite by Gustav Holst. The very opening theme of the first movement is in C major, and we can use the C as our drone. An example of how we can use a drone to practice our intonation, and you can use this method in any piece. Next, I would like to go on to the end of the first movement. All strings here have pizzicato. When we work on pizzicato, we need to make sure that we can play them in tune first. I would suggest that we play the notes instead of just plucking the strings. This way, we can actually hear the pitches better and if they need correction. Making sure that your pizzicato is in tune is always important, and it's good to practice all pizzicato passages by first playing them. Going on to the third movement of the Brook Green Suite, which is a dance movement, I'd like to talk to you about the bow distribution and usage. In the beginning of the movement, we see that the dynamic is forte. We want to make sure that when we play forte, we retain the quality of the sound. In addition, when there are different strokes, we need to make sure that we're always using the right amount of bow, which is not too much and it's not too little. When we overuse the bow, we lose control or risk slowing down. On the other hand, if we don't use enough bow, then we don't hear anything. We need to use the bow just right. For this particular passage, I would stay in the middle of the bow. And in order to actually make a dynamic difference between forte and piano, what can we do? More bow for louder playing and less for softer playing? That might work. More pressure for more sound and less pressure for less? Sure, that might work too. And here's yet one more. Where between the fingerboard and the bridge should the bow be placed? We obviously can hear the difference very clearly. However, I'd like to just remind you all never to play on the fingerboard unless it is specifically marked to be played on the fingerboard, like sul tasto.
Hello, my name is Michael Kaufman, and I'm a cellist in the Los Angeles Opera Orchestra and the cello quintet Sakura. Today we're talking about Baroque music, and specifically the Baroque cello and how it varies from the modern cello. Now, the most obvious difference between the Baroque and modern cello is that there is no end pin on a Baroque cello. You actually have to hold the instrument between your legs. The strings are made out of gut, not steel, and that actually takes a lot of tension off of the instrument. It really allows the wood to open up and resonate in a different way. You'll also notice that the strings are tuned slightly differently. It's actually usually tuned down a half step. So instead of using an A at 441 or 440, we're using an A at 415 when we're playing on a Baroque cello. The bow is different as well. You'll notice that instead of being a concave curve, it's actually a convex curve. It curves outwards. And this allows the sound to really release in a different way as you travel from the frog to the tip. I also hold the bow a little bit higher up than the frog, as I normally would on a modern cello. So there are a couple of ways that we use a Baroque bow differently than a modern bow. First of all, it's extremely important to make sure to release the sound when you travel from the frog to the tip. If you don't, you'll kill it very easily. And that doesn't allow the instrument to breathe. The other thing that's really important is to use a lot of variation in bow speed. And this is really very similar, or maybe even the same thing, to variation in bow distribution. Because if you are distributing the bow in different amounts over the same amount of time, that will be a variation in bow speed. So, for instance, let's look at the bass line from Bach's Air. Now, as you can see, I'm using more bow on the first and the fourth eighth notes and less bow on the second and third. And then again, longer and less. In this way, I can show the downbeats, which are heavier, and the light beats, I use less bow. And on the fourth eighth note, I can actually do a little bit of crescendo, use some bow speed. To lead into the next stronger beat. Let's hear what this sounds like on a modern cello. Now the difference is that on a modern cello, I can use a little bit more vibrato and I can use a little bit more weight in my bow, but the principles are the same. I'm going to use more bow on the first eighth note, I'm going to use less in the second and third, and then I'm going to do a little bit like a mini crescendo with the fourth eighth note to get me to the next strong beat. I hope you've enjoyed this short discussion on Baroque cello playing and how that can be applied to the way we play Baroque music on modern cello. Good luck.